been a few months since this 8 Series has been inside of my shop here. Last time it was in here was the day we finished it after doing the M60B44 swap. I got it running, took it home, and never looked back because it's been a really solid swap, and that's what the focus of this video is going to be on. This is our 1,000 mile update on the M60B44 E31. I've driven this thing about 1,000 miles now, just over actually, and I want to go through with you guys, check out the engine, check out areas of potential concern or what I was concerned with and see how those are holding up, like oil leaks and stuff like that. We're gonna check the oil level, catch can, see and make sure there's not a lot of blow by, make sure it's not consuming oil like crazy. And then we're gonna take it for a little drive and I'm gonna give you guys my overall 1,000 mile mini quick review, because I know in the first review I was really harsh on the car. So I wanted to, since I've had more chances to drive it, kind of update you guys. So now obviously when you build an engine, do an engine swap, you're always kind of looking for leaks, oil leaks and stuff like that. So pertaining to this engine in particular, I was very worried about the upper timing covers, because if you guys remember from the build, the head gaskets on the M62 don't come around to the timing covers. So you have to take your old head gasket fronts and use a bunch of RTV and kind of make your own little gasket at the front there. And I know in the corners, like right here, obviously valve covers love to leak from. So I was worried about this being leaky, but actually completely dry on this side. There is no oil leaking down at all, which is really good. From the upper side, no leaks either. You wouldn't expect it to leak from there anyway because the angle of it. This one, same thing, good there. And good there, wow. That's actually, I mean, not all that surprising, but kind of surprising because I was thinking those would leak pretty bad. Now, obviously, we're doing this together, but this isn't to say that for 1,000 miles I haven't looked at anything in this engine. Obviously, I've been under here checking my oil and all that stuff, but we're doing it together. What I haven't checked is this, and this is what I'm excited for, to see what the catch can's doing, because that's an important feature that we added that should make this engine a lot happier in the long run. But no oil leaks from the concerning areas. From what I can see, the valve covers look to be good. We're gonna jack it up, get underneath it right now really quick and check that out and see what it looks like under there. I don't know if I ever updated you guys, but I got all the beauty covers for this thing. So it looks like a completely stock engine. You can't tell that any work was done, and that's really cool. Coolant, still full, still at the full mark. So absolutely no coolant consumption, which is obviously another good thing. I mean, when you have heads off, doing head gaskets, all this stuff, it's pretty nerve-wracking, man. You gotta think there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and it's nice to know that it all went well, right? So from looking underneath, oil pan's not leaking, level sensor's not leaking, motor mounts look good, no power steering leaks. I mean, it's looking good. You can't see a whole lot from under here, but oil pan in of itself is a good thing to not be leaking. No rear main leaks, it looks like. I'd say we did pretty good here, man. This all looks pretty solid. So I did, and I forgot to film, I did a right after the swap oil change, obviously to get the contaminants and stuff out. So we're not gonna be changing the oil right now. But basically, this oil has probably 950 miles on it, you know, because I probably did 50 before I changed it. So we'll check the level here. It's kind of hard with the cover in the way. Oh yeah, right at the top. Check that out. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but right at the top of the dipstick, which means that this thing has not lost any oil actually, like at all, because it's not low in the slightest. So that's really great news. It's not burning oil, it's not leaking oil. Now I guess we can check our catch can and see what's happening here, see what this thing is catching. So we got our little dipstick here. Oh, it actually has some stuff on it. All right, we might actually have some stuff in our catch can. So then these catch cans are nice. I mount it in a spot where you can obviously just twist it off and pull the canister out from the bottom, or from the bottom of the catch can, but not from the bottom of the engine bay, obviously. Oh yeah, we got some stuff in here. Look at this, check this out. We got, I don't know, maybe like quarter, half an inch of fluid in here. So what you guys are seeing here is what, with a stock CCV in this car, would be getting consumed back into your manifold and sucked into your cylinders. And that's why M60s are so unhappy sometimes, because this motor is just notorious for what this is, which is, honestly, this isn't really blow-by. Yeah, because that's not actually oil. So this is more so, basically what you're seeing in here is moisture that comes from, like I said, this is daily driver, so daily activities. And what that means is a lot of short drives. Also, I finished this car in like February, so I've only been driving it in the winter months. It's still cold out here. So we're having, short daily driver style drives, not necessarily hitting the highway every time I drive, not necessarily warming it up fully when I drive. And this is all comes down to when people say they like to start their car during winter storage. Horrible idea unless you're running it and driving it and getting it to operating temp, and then not necessarily beating on it, but like, actually driving it. Because otherwise you start your engine, you run it for a little bit, all the moisture that's built up in there and moisture that continues to build up in there is run through the engine and it never burns it off. So what this is, that all that white, like the frothy stuff, that's literally moisture. So if you ever pull your oil cap after not driving a car very often, you'll see it's a little white. And people also look at that as, okay, is it your head gasket? Well, if it's your head gasket, it's gonna be really bad. This is basically just bubble froth from moisture within the engine. And then it's more so water. So I would say it's probably a little bit of oil blow by, but really it's kind of just water pooled up, because I put my finger in it and I mean, it doesn't obviously have the thickness or the consistency of oil. So it's kind of just moisture, water, a little bit of oil residue that's getting sucked into the catch can. It means the catch can is first off working really good. But also it just means that this engine's getting much cleaner air in it, because it's not sucking in this nasty nonsense, and that's really cool. So catch can works. We're gonna drain this. I don't think this is bad for 1,000 miles. I think this is pretty normal for these V8s. These things are, like I said, notorious for just, I don't want to call it blow by. That kind of sounds bad, but basically, yeah, moisture blow by, anything that comes up from the bottom end through the crankcase and out. So it comes out of there in here, and then you have clean vapor going back into the engine, so it's not sucking in a bunch of moisture. So in the long run, you'll have cleaner valves, healthier engine, happier engine. So that's really exciting to see that it's working. But otherwise, after I drain this, I say we just go take it for a drive. I'll give you guys my quick little updated 1,000-mile review, and we'll go from there. So you drain it, clean it out, and then just thread it back in. It's as easy as that. Nice thing to have here. Let's discuss my 1,000 miles while we go for a drive, shall we? Before we start, cookie cluster. Really good. All right. I've enjoyed my cookie cluster. Now we can talk. So we've completed the inspection. We see that this car has been holding up fantastic. The engine is perfect. I mean, no oil consumption, no leaks have sprung. I have had 0 issues pertaining to the engine swap, the reliability of the engine, anything like that. I have driven this thing nearly as a daily driver since it was finished. Like I said, we just ticked over about 1,000 miles on the swap. And honestly, That may seem like not a lot, but that's actually sort of meaningful in the world of like me and my builds, because it actually takes me a while to put a lot of mileage on cars, because I'm funneling, or I'm not funneling, I'm shifting between so many different projects and so many different cars at one time that it's unusual that one sees a lot of mileage, right? I mean, my road trip SV2 E34 obviously saw 7,000 miles across the country right after I finished it. So that was like the ultimate test. But in the sense of like other things, you know, like the ITB M30, I probably did maybe 500 max, and then now that engine's sitting on my floor. So 1,000 miles is definitely a notable amount of time driven, and I think that gives you a pretty decent gauge of how everything went, right? I think within the first 1,000 miles, you're gonna notice if you have issues, if you have leaks. I was really confident on how I put everything together here, in that, and just the whole car in general. When I finished it, I drove it home from the shop that night. No tools, no one on standby. My neighbor at the shop said, he's like, "Hey, you sure you trust it?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I mean, it made it back, not a single problem. So it's been absolutely fantastic. I know I was actually a little harsh on the car in the first drive video. If you guys remember, if you watched the first drive video, I was pretty harsh, and most of that came down to my feelings on the E31 itself. So I know I didn't want it to be on the E31, more so the M60, but that's just how it landed. And since then, I've driven it a lot more. I've really been using it as a daily, and that has let me really kind of appreciate the car for what it is more, I guess you could say. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, I made kind of a little blog style post about a night I spent in the city with the 8 Series, and it felt really fun and enjoyable cruising this through downtown Chicago, hearing the V8 kind of rumble off the skyscrapers, and being able to just kind of step on it. Don't have to worry about clutch, don't have to worry about shifting. You step on it, you can move, you know, from a red light, going around a corner, sketchy intersection, whatever it is. And that made me really appreciate, like, yeah, you know what? These are good cars. It may not be the most fun in the sense of a track car or a back road turns car, but for what it is, which is basically a sportier looking 7 Series, it does it pretty good, and it does it. It's a lot of fun. Like right now, I'm taking a corner at like 60, and I'm leaned back. I got one hand on the wheel. I mean, it's comfortable, right? Like I don't have the feeling or the faith of this to like hit this at like 95 like I would in like a M3, but 60, 70 on an on-ramp, and it does it perfectly. This isn't going to end up being a review, but I just wanted to kind of say I was a little overly harsh. I do actually really enjoy this car, and I think if you were to ask me where this car really shines, it's the low-end torque when you're just kind of cruising through, you know, traffic, you know, casual roadways. Like I find this a lot with my manual cars, even the ones that are quicker. You know, you're at a red light and you're like, all right, let me see like how I compare it to like a modern car, just for fun, right? You're just kind of like racing in your head, and you know, by the time you get into the gear shift, you're kind of like, you know, you're trying to keep up to the modern day automatic car next to you. Whereas this, it's like you step on it, you go, you could weave through whatever you need to do if you got to make quick decisions, and it does it really good. And it has the power and the torque to kind of make you feel like, oh, like this is pretty fun. I'm gonna put in a little like 0 to 60 clip of the speedometer because I haven't like done it yet. And then you step on it. Once the auto trans takes its time, I mean, it gets up and goes. I mean, pretty good. It's actually a pretty enjoyable car all around. So I was a little overly harsh. I do really like this car. Or I guess I like kind of everything. I do like the car, but you guys also will notice I've been trying to sell it, and everyone keeps saying, why don't you use that manual swap that you have? I don't want to manual swap this thing, man. To be honest, I don't want to keep the car. I had my fun. I lived out my 8 Series dream. I'm done with it, dude. I don't. A lot of people always tell me like, oh, get 7 Series, this and that. I don't really have the care to keep like comfort cars in the collection, which I would consider this. Like, I like my fun, sporty, modified stuff, and yes, this is modified, but in a way that is still like a pretty comfortable like cruiser that doesn't serve a purpose for me. Like, if I lived in California and I was doing like, 6-hour road trips to like wherever every weekend, yeah, this would be a great car to have. But in the sense of living where I live and what I need it for and how much time out of the year I have to actually drive all my cars, I don't care to have it. So also the manual swap, you're looking at thousands of dollars, custom drive shaft, impossible linkages, the money, the time. It's not worth it in the end, because what am I going to end up selling the car for? Probably not a dime more. I wholeheartedly believe that it would hardly add value to the car. These are impossible to sell. I've been talking to other people. Every 8 Series on the market is just sitting. No one wants them. Everyone has such a small budget for cars that used to be, one of the most expensive BMWs ever. But even like a year ago, like I was seeing these 20 grand, and it's like, everyone's budget. They want like a car that it doesn't run. Like, and I put all this effort in. It's kind of frustrating, but so I'm not going to do all that. But back on track, coming down to it. The reliability with this car, like I said, the engine has been absolutely perfect. I get in this car and I literally drive it every day, and I don't do anything in the sense of like, oh, I got to deal with this, or oh, I got to deal with that, or oh, never left me stranded, never left me with issues, nothing. The only reliability issues I'm having come down to the damn E31. That is the only problems I've been having with the car. And I really haven't been having problems except for 2 things. The anti-lock and the traction control light comes on, and they've been on for like a week now, 2 weeks. And that, I think I heard, is just the ABS pre-pump doesn't run a lot, so it gets kind of like gummed up or whatever. And I just watched a video on how to fix that, so I'm gonna try to do that. That's not really a reliability thing. It's more of it's a nuisance to see the lights on the dash, but everything else works fine. And then secondly is my cold start. And I mean like cold start. I mean like it's got to be like damp and cold out. And when I first start the car and go to drive it, it like hiccups. The check engine light will flash. And basically the car is like immobilizing itself. And I know that's exactly what it is. I think it's the general module. These always have general module issues and bad solder joints, and then they tweak out. And if you guys watched my Snapchat story a couple months ago when I got locked in the car, that was the EWS system, whatever, immobilizer system, that didn't sense that I unlocked the key or unlocked the car with the key, and it let me in the car, but the rest of the electronics didn't like activate. And I know that that's the same issue that's giving me with the like the stuttering. Like, it's not a stutter like there's something wrong with the TPS or the engine. It's quite literally car loses power, turns back on, loses power, turns back on. And it does it for like maybe a minute. And then once things kind of warm up, it goes away and everything's normal. So that's an E31 problem. I'll try to tend to that here in a little bit. Probably won't make a video on it because it's going to be more so probably just buying a general module and installing it. But a weird, annoying problem. And that's just E31 technology for you. But otherwise, yeah, car's been great. I kind of wish I had like muffler deletes so it would be like kind of loud and more fun, but also I'm glad that it's how it is, stock form, comfortable, quiet, but you could step on it when you want. So it's been good. I'm happy with it, but it's not the kind of car that I necessarily care to keep. As I've been saying, I will be doing another M60B44 in the future, whether it's in an E34 or an E30 or something like that. But I don't care to own this particular car with the M60. I'd rather sell it to someone that really, really, really loves E31s and wants one that has a really sweet engine. So it's been sitting on Marketplace for months. No one wants E31s, I guess, anymore. We'll see what happens. But I just want to make a quick little update, reliability check on the car. So far, so good. I mean, you know, a lot of it comes down to the work I performed. I did everything right, made sure I did the right seals and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you got a stock engine with just 2 engines put together, stock electronics. There's not all that much that can go wrong. I mean, it's a solid engine. Everything's done really nice, so no issues there. So happy to report, very reliable, and an overall fun car for what it is. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little update video on the E31. Probably the last time we see it on the channel, because really I did my 1,000-mile update. Now I'm pretty much over it, so it'll probably sell eventually here. But anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.